going to go to the main page and we can start from here. So I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Hi, audience. Welcome to the first episode of the Drachmas and Denarii podcast. I'm your host, Sam.
My name is Sadie.
And we're bringing you this new podcast idea as an attempt to just try to bring more ancient coin coverage to YouTube. There's a lot of great channels out there already, but there aren't too many that kind of focus on auctions, coins being bought and sold, and then looking at, in particular, not lower end examples, but perhaps coins that might be found for under $1,000 or less. So your kind of working person, average collector might be able to relate to the coins we share here.
Yeah, so there have been major strides in just the classical numismatic presence on YouTube lately, with channels like Classical Numismatics doing great videos.
Aaron Burke as well.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we do have the like a sufficient space to grow in this field on YouTube with more content based upon like going through different types in depth, like specific fields that don't get mentioned a lot. So I think we can talk about more things that aren't mentioned in quick 10-minute videos in a format where we can talk for longer.
And I think by kind of bringing those niche topics on YouTube, we expand the market more. Just kind of show more collectors who may not be exposed to kind of different areas of just what exists in the ancient coin field. I mean, there's so many different areas, so many different sub-collections, or just places you can go to get coins. Just kind of covering those topics and making sure that the average collector knows more about the state of the industry and just how far and how many different groups and ancient peoples you can collect from.
Yeah. And I mean the format for a podcast or a longer show definitely lends to that. It's very hard to make a concise and good video in like 10 minutes in a field as varied as ancient coins. So I think this format lends very well to what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, so I guess I can go ahead and start off by talking about just more about myself and what I collect. So my name is Sam, like I mentioned, and I'm a Byzantine collector, so I kind of specialize in the late Byzantine Empire after the 1204 sack of Constantinople. I collect trachea, both in bronze, silver, and gold, and kind of specializing in that field. You often don't see those coins represented as much in auction or by kind of mainstream collectors. I suppose it's kind of niche in and of itself. But part of my hope, too, is with this podcast to kind of bring more attention to what I collect, explain why I enjoyed that, and kind of the fun you can have within that field.
Yeah. No, my name is Sadie. My real name's Adrian, but I go by Sadie whenever I'm in the collecting space. I've been collecting ancient coins for quite briefly, really, only 2 or 3 years. But I focus heavily on Roman coinage, and that could be like everything from imperials, 12 Caesars, and so forth to provincial coinage. Um, I collect a lot of different niches. I do like to go into a type of coin and try to figure out the very minutia of its details, basically. So instead of collecting, I mean, maybe every emperor or just the 12 Caesars, I try to find areas where I can grow and where I can learn more about uh, what did the mint think about this, or why did they implement a symbol in this sort of coin, for example.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too for myself as well. When I collect, I kind of want to not only just buy a coin and have it, but study it and give back to the field, do research on it, and try to find out kind of answers to a lot of questions that numismatists might have. So I think that for me, collecting is important, and that it's a study as well as just an assemblage of coins.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably like in classical numismatics as a field in particular, having to do the homework, having to study is much more prevalent as opposed to collecting. I mean, like U.S. and modern coins, where it's more about assembling a typeset, for example, rather than doing actual research on the historical topics and so forth.
Yeah, you can even look at just like the idea of grades. It's not really a thing in ancient coins. You might collect for just like style, rarity, particular mint marks, things of that nature, historical significance. Whereas with moderns, you don't have that. You kind of buy for a slab, for a grade. You just kind of have a lot of factors you don't see in ancient coins, which differentiate the two.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to ancients, there's a lot more variety, and I think you hit upon that, where a coin with a faltering grade might hammer for well like 3-4 times more than a coin in a higher grade, just because of a slight detail to the die or a specific variant that hasn't been seen before.
Or even provenance could be another example.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of funny too. Speaking of provenances, you might have a provenance for ancient coins older than a lot of U.S. coin types, just for example.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about us, and the idea of the podcast is that we're going to have maybe 3 or 4 segments, the first of which will be to cover what we'll call live auction madness. And so in this, we're going to take a look at different auction houses and kind of go over the maybe like best and worst coins in there, some good deals, bad deals, interesting types, things like that. And then after that, we're going to be looking at a coin of the week. And so for these, we're just going to find one interesting coin type that you probably haven't heard of before and spend 5 to 10 minutes talking about this coin, the details behind it, and try to give everyone a lesson about just an interesting example. And then finally, we're going to be talking about coin wins. So any auction wins that we have, we're going to share those with you all.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off that first segment, the live auction madness, by looking at Nomos. And so they recently finished an auction a couple of days ago, and there were a lot of interesting types we're going to be talking about today. And so first, we're going to look at lot number 1. This coin I picked not because of the coin itself, but actually the description here. So the coin is minted in Gaul by I'm not sure you pronounce that, Adui? Adui, yeah. But they say that the minter or king who issued it is Dubno. And Nomos says, while they know very little about who Dubno was, it's possible he may have been a remote ancestor of the American president George W. Bush, who was known by the cognate Dubya. So I thought that was just a little funny tidbit that shows that, not all ancient coin collectors are just dry old men. There's some humor in the field as well.
I think Nomos in particular has a very similar tone to this, where they feel confident enough in the market to be able to make a joke, whilst most auction houses, they're very dry and very to the point of what is this coin and like what's the historical aspect of it.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder. Even so, the humor didn't affect the hammer price much, but it's just a nice little fun tidbit.
Yeah, definitely. It is interesting though, like looking at the coin. I mean, these Gallic, these Celtic types, how they evolve over time. I mean, obviously, it tries to imitate some sort of Philip II tetradrachm with a horse reverse.
Yeah.
And probably like some sort of Roman denarius on the obverse. It looks almost like some sort of helmeted figure. I don't know what Nomos said about it.
Yeah, so they talk about that. Yeah, the reverse is a horse galloping right with the wheel symbols above and below. And the obverse just as a bust, so they don't know who the bust is of. But it's interesting, too, how you mentioned the stylization kind of becomes more extreme as you progress with these Celtic coins.
Yeah, and I mean, as we're going to probably see later on in the show, imitations, they do tend to become more abstract as time goes on. It starts with a coin that tries to very closely imitate the prototype. But as the decades pile on, things become they become crazy.
Yeah.
I think this coin does make a pretty good attempt though at trying to imitate these older Greek types. It's not as out there as other Gallic and the Celtic coins that you do see in the marketplace quite often.
Yeah, I think it certainly has charm, and for 75 francs, I think that was a good buy.
Definitely.
So we can go to the next lot, looking at lot 918. I thought this one was interesting. It is a Julian II Solidus, but Nomos writes possibly a barbaric imitation from Nicomedia. If you look at it, the style is quite unusual. It's kind of got unusual lettering and then a bust type, and the reverse to some details you might expect are missing. And the flan looks like maybe this is a Solidus is of lower purity. Hard to tell with just the photo, but either way, it's certainly an interesting issue.
Are these legends completely legible?
Yeah, so they're legible and I believe the correct spelling, grammar, all of that. So you've kind of got to
Is that,
wonder if it is a barbaric imitation, could they have gotten all of that right?
yeah, I mean, is that I'm not really too read up on imitations of this period, but do they often get the legends completely right?
I mean, there's so many out there that yeah, some do, but I would say the majority don't. And usually, you're more likely to find an example where not a single letter makes any sense in position than you are to find an example with complete correct grammar. So I would say this would be extremely unusual in that the imitation has correct legends.
Yeah, and I guess the legend probably goes hand in hand with like the stylistic pattern of the coin. So like as the style degrades, the legends does too.
Yeah, and the weight seems to be a bit reduced too at 4.0 grams, 4.40 grams, just a tad bit below the official weight. So you wonder too, perhaps these were trying to be, or maybe mint imitations, someone at a mint getting access to dies and trying to issue lower weight examples, make a bit of money that way. But either way, yeah, it's quite curious. We can go ahead and go to the next slot as well. 934 caught my attention. I thought this was one of the better deals of Nomos. So it is three Trimissus coins that hammered for 500 francs. And although they're plagued with some issues, I think they're about standard for the types. And I would expect these to sell maybe at $200 to $300 each in auction, at about $400 to $500 each in retail. So I think whoever bought this got a great deal. Could easily
Oh,
make some money
really?
back.
How about the grade issues? I mean, obviously some of these have been, it seems like punctured, and I mean most of them are struck quite flatly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following auctions. It seems like these issues don't matter anymore. The market is so hot that if they see gold, ancient gold, it's bought. Um, so I would not expect that to actually affect it much. I mean, yeah, I think the Anastasius right there, the leftmost coin, it does have some issues. Maybe the reverse there, it might affect price a bit, but in general, I would say no. And the bottom coin is actually in remarkable shape for the Constance, the second issue. Those are actually oftentimes a lot worse. So I'd say overall that was a good lot with good grade coins. Whoever got that did well.
Would you say the issue of Anastasius is rare in some manner?
No, I would just say
As
it's
you may noted
desirable.
it.
I think just because it's ancient gold that's cheap, a lot of collectors, whatever they collect, will move to Byzantine, early Byzantine, and try to buy this
Yeah.
gold. Because it's so connected to Rome. The fall of the West was just a couple years before that, so you kind of have that connection as well, which drives up that popularity.
Which is interesting though, because like in this market environment that we find ourselves in, where like coins are hammering for insane prices, never before seen hammers, things are insane, and then we have lots like this where you're obviously presented with three gold ancient coins, and they're in legible grade,
Yeah.
obviously, and it's for a really cheap price.
Yeah, this is when I was watching myself. There were some targets I'll go over later that I actually ended up winning, so I kind of diverted some funds away that I couldn't get this. But it's a great lot, I think. And just with the fact of resale, you could probably buy this, keep one coin, sell two, and basically get the third for free. So overall, yeah, um,
Yeah,
just interesting
I
to
would
show
keep
that
that.
you can have deals in today's market.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would probably keep that Anastasius and just sell the other ones.
Yeah,
It's not really that bad.
yeah, you keep that face up in your tray, you won't even see the problems in the back. So
Exactly.
we can go ahead and go over to the next coin. Do you have one you want to share from Nomos?
Uh, yeah, you could go to 78.
78.
This is one that I was watching actually. It's a really interesting sort of variation of a very normal Punic type. So
Okay.
anyone who's been watching ancient coins for any period of time will probably have run across these beautiful tetradrachms that are labeled Punic. They're in wonderful Greek style, often with a nymph on the reverse and a some sort of horse on the obverse. This is a very normal type, struck in some sort of unknown mint in Sicily, maybe Panormos. But what makes this coin very interesting is that it's first of all cut in half, uh,
Yeah,
which is
it's
not
unusual.
something. Yeah, it's very unusual. These were presentation pieces. They were struck from well engraved dies.
Some would say the
People,
finest.
yeah, definitely, and people would, I think, would pain themselves to like cut the coin like this. But obviously, someone needed to create some change or something in a transaction.
Well, you wonder too.
Um,
It's often mentioned that it's theorized, at least, these were minted for mercenaries. Perhaps they didn't care about the artistic value. They're in
yeah,
this war for money, so at that point, just clipping a coin, it made no difference to them.
definitely. Maybe the soldier did something stupid and
Hmm.
got it half pay.
Hmm.
No, but the most interesting thing really is the countermark seen on the reverse here. This is something that is extremely abnormal in the entire series. I'm not aware of any countermarks done on coins of the Siculopunics. Um, Nomos has noted that this is probably maybe some sort of African or Spanish countermark.
Yeah, which is quite
I'm
unusual, I would say, right? That they would say that it came or traveled through North Africa and Spain.
Yeah, there are no hordes known outside of Sicily, so finding something like this in Spain or Africa would be very strange. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it's, they say
but
that the countermark, say it's a wheel with four spokes. I wonder, perhaps they traced that countermark into North Africa or Spain somehow. But either way, a bit of an unusual coin with unusual attribution as well.
yeah, I haven't been able to find any matches myself, but I do wonder if they've gone and looked through Punic bronze issues, as they are often countermarked, and they're from Africa, they're from Carthage, like minted in the city. So maybe they did find some match for some bronze issue, perhaps.
That's a good point too, and I think that for the 300 francs it cost, for such an interesting countermark and it being
Yeah,
clipped or cut, I think it's a fair price.
definitely. I've spoken to some of my collector friends who collect Siculopunics heavily, and they're kind of kicking themselves for not buying this just for the research value.
Yeah,
Um, Getting something like this recognized in the corpus would be pretty huge, actually. Like
yeah, lots of
Jenkins, who wrote the
implications.
yeah, definitely. If this would be able to trace to some sort of mint, maybe like in Africa, for example, maybe the whole attribution can be put into question, since this is from an unknown mint.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, pretty interesting coin, and with all that mentioned, I'd say that price is even great, the 300
Yeah,
francs.
definitely.
So we can go and go on to the next slot here. I've got lot 964 I wanted to look at. So this one was interesting, a Byzantine bronze. I thought that, I guess in terms of price, it stood out to me at 850 francs. That's a large amount of money for what it is. It's from a rare Byzantine emperor, Theodosius III. He was a tax collector who basically got forced to become emperor, ruled for 2 years, and got deposed. But it's a bronze of his, so that would already make it rare, and it's from Sicily, which is a unusual mint. So those two factors coming together lead to a very rare coin with a nice patina, I would say, and for the issue, like remarkable condition and strike. So just an interesting coin overall, and it's hard to gauge if that price is fair or not because you probably won't see one like this ever come to market again.
Tax collector become emperor. That is interesting. How about are these common with these sort of like bust styles, the facing emperor?
You see it a lot more in Constance II, who ruled about 50 years previous, but kind of this style of that bust is actually very rare. I would say it's hard to find. Especially too, this is the kind where he's got a spear over the shoulder. Yeah, those become pretty hard to find. But
Yeah.
overall, just an interesting coin. I thought an interesting patina. One you're not going to see again most likely unless this coin is resold.
What are your thoughts about the participation like from the bidders on this lot? Obviously, someone recognized it as
Yeah,
a pretty unique piece for
yeah. You see here
to bid
17
850.
bids. I think the price kind of reflects that. I wonder if like someone collects the Sicilian bronzes of this era. That must kind of be a keystone piece you would need, or even museums too. I know a lot specialize in this area. It could be that an institution has come by and decided to buy that no matter what.
Yeah,
Kind of the
yeah, for
perfect
sure,
plate coin. But overall, yeah,
sure.
an interesting piece. We can go to the next one here, 965. Kind of the same situation, just a rare bronze, hard to find, in great shape. And yeah, once again, just a price to reflect that. I just thought it was interesting to see these bronzes. You could argue the rarity justifies the price, but they seem to be doing very well in today's market.
That's a really strange type. I've never seen something like this, really. Is this? Could you speak more about like the people who issued this?
Yeah, so this was, if you look at the ruler, this would have been the emperor before the one I just showed. It was kind of during a period of tumult and civil war in the Byzantine Empire. You had, I think, in a period of about 2 decades, 7 different emperors come to the throne. So there was a lot of civil strife. You had Arabs attacking from the east, and then kind of Italian pains with Lombards, different tribes. So it was just a period of general unrest in the empire, and a lot of the coinage kind of becomes stylized and degrades to reflect that. And yeah, these are
Uh,
interesting too. The Syracuse issues oftentimes have a monogram on the reverse, which is unusual. You don't see that kind of outside this period, before or after. You'll recognize the M. That's kind of common on bronzes to denote the denomination, but yeah, having that monogram is quite odd.
or I mean, the emperor being depicted here like unbearded, is that abnormal in any way? Or I feel like I've only seen Byzantine emperors with beard, like being bearded. I've never seen them
Yeah, I'd
like
say
this.
it's kind of in this period. It's hard to say too. Is it supposed to be bearded or not, or just kind of such a crude dye that you couldn't tell either way? Um,
Oh yeah, now that you mention it, the line like towards his face is very strong. That might just be the beard.
yeah, but it's hard to
Yeah,
say.
sure.
But either way, yeah, pretty
And
cool.
what's interesting also about these, the dice are very irregular, very I mean rough. Would that reflect
Yeah,
the time period that these were
definitely. I would
minted
say
in?
they almost all look like this. So kind of the lot that was pointed out before, with that being so sharp, that's why it kind of stood out to me, just kind of being an exceptional issue. And you can see here too, the reference here, Dumbarton Oaks Collection. That's one of the finest in the world, and they don't have a copy of this in their reference work. So that
Oh
kind of speaks
wow,
to its rarity.
sure.
But yeah, overall, just an interesting issue. I guess we can go ahead and move on to the next lot. Do you have one you want to look at?
Yeah, 583.
583. Oh,
So
cool.
this was a coin that I was watching from the beginning of the auction. It really like stuck out to me. Obviously, a very strong hammer for what it is, 2,800
Definitely.
francs. But like looking at it a bit further, you start seeing some very strange things about it. First of all, Athena is looking more masculine than
Hmm.
she usually does, right? A
Yeah.
very pronounced nose there. And obviously, the style is very degraded from official issues. I think most anyone who's looked at the Athenian coinage would recognize that.
Yeah, their normal
Um,
beauty just contrasts with this. It's charming, I'd say,
yeah,
but it kind of loses that original luster.
exactly. What's also pretty interesting about it, and what's really pointing us in the right direction in regards to the attribution, is the cheek countermark seen there.
Hmm.
Although it's described here in the attribution as a countermark with a monogram. I do believe this is Arabian letter in one of their proto languages.
Oh, wow.
Um, it could either be a letter, it could be a value mark. It's not really known,
That's
but
quite interesting, though. It'd be early
it's
as well.
probably, yeah, definitely, and it's probably the only feature of this coin that actually makes us able to attribute it to a specific place. In this case, Lihan in northwestern Arabia. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
quite
definitely,
unusual.
yeah, this is an unpublished, unique coin. There are none like it. Um, and also, it being an imitation, it probably like had a pretty limited circulation. But I did want to talk about how this deviates a little bit from official issues, and especially from other imitations that might have come before it. Um, so obviously the reverse here, we see a standing, like upward standing owl. Um, this is not at all common on official issues where the owl is seen in a more slouched position, standing and facing, obviously,
Yeah,
but
almost at like
not
45 degrees, the angle.
yeah, not upward like this. And secondly, the legend is on the wrong side here. The legend is on the left field instead of the right field. And the legend bearing the initials of Athens, Alpha, Theta, O there. And also, as the legend is on the left field, the olive sprig is on the right field, which is like very strange to someone who's been looking at Athenian texts for a while. It's just all uh, mushed up and weird here.
The
I
wing
did
looks
send
unusual. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I did send you a picture of another owl that we might could take a look at. Here
This
we go.
one?
This is also an Arabian imitation, but obviously in much finer style and closer to official issues from the time. I mean, this could easily be mistaken for an official issue, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. Is that the same countermark on the cheek?
It's a very similar countermark, but it's not the same. If you see the orientation of they're inverted basically.
Yeah.
Um, but I do believe it's some sort of letter in their language. But
Okay, cool.
obviously, yeah, it's a really cool type, and I think the hammer really reflects that.
Yeah, I'd say so. And you can
Uh,
kind of see some more examples here of just kind of style that progresses even further and further from the original.
Yeah, and I think this really speaks to what we spoke about before about how imitations, how they degrade over time. The style becomes more and more abstract. On this coin, for example, it shares the owl standing upright
Yeah.
on the reverse as the Nomos coin does, but the style has been so degraded that Athena is barely recognizable anymore.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, definitely a cool coin, I'd say, with all that considered. That hammer price makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, when you're buying coins like this, you're always in a gray area. This could easily be like a forgery of some kind. It could be like a fantasy coin. It's very hard sometimes to make very secure decisions when you're bidding on like a unique unpublished coin until you've gotten experts in that area to look at it in hand, like inspect it thoroughly and so forth.
I would say in this case, condition speaks towards authenticity with a kind of silvering. It looks like almost corrosion, silver horn maybe on the
Yeah,
surfaces. You would tend to think that then at that point it looks authentic, because that would be kind of
sure.
hard to fake that natural wear and corrosion. But yeah, overall, very interesting. So next we can move on to lot 982. So this was interesting. It's a Byzantine spelling error. I think one of a kind, one known, one or two known. So with this, the normal legend on your obverse would read MHP, OV for Mary Mother of God, but in this case it actually reads MHP XC, where the XC would be part of the normal legend for Jesus Christ. So whoever cut this die messed that up and kind of blended the titles of the Virgin Mary and Jesus into one. Yeah, and so Nomos writes that this is very unusual. There's not a single example in coin archives with the spelling error. So it seems that two collectors must have gone at it with a hammer price of 2,200. So that's,
Wow.
in my opinion, more than what I would think this is worth. But overall, yeah, some collectors seem to find that very interesting.
Are spelling errors in general something that you see in the Byzantine series?
I would say yes, but normally it's on the reverse. You might have longer names, like a saint's name or an emperor's name, but you never see the actual titles of Jesus or Mary on the obverse misspelled. So that's pretty unusual to see this. So I guess that might justify the price then, just the rarity. If you don't get this example, you might not get another one.
Yeah, sure. And I'd imagine as a mint worker misspelling Jesus' name, that might be a
Yeah,
no-no.
grounds to get fired, maybe. But yeah. Overall, just an interesting piece, and you can see just the ones next to it. I mean, they're cracked, but 130, 240. You might expect this without a spelling error to go for 300, maybe even 4, but Just having that
Wow.
misspelling here that makes the price jump almost tenfold.
That is insane. I don't think I've seen one of these hammer for that much before.
Yeah, and you've got to think there must be more out there, just not spotted. If this die
Yeah,
exists, it must there'd be room for a collector to find one and flip it.
sure, sure. And I mean, like, this is such a specialized type of thing that you really need to find two people who, like, they would die to get this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
overall, just a neat kind of tidbit, just kind of showing how even mint workers back then made mistakes, and just a funny issue. Do you have any more lots you want to show here at Nomos?
not at Nomos, no.
All right, so we can go ahead and move on to the next auction. I've got Numismatic Naumann here. So yeah, we can go ahead and go through here. Is there a lot you want to look at first?
I was kind of looking to speak more broadly about how the gold Romans did. So if you could
Oh,
sort by
sure, yeah.
price descending, there we go. And then you could
Oh,
probably
wow.
also go to the Roman imperial coins section. Yeah, there we go. So I was looking at this auction when it was posted, and obviously some of these coins I've seen before. They've either went unsold or sold like hammered previously with Naumann. So what I'm guessing is that either the bidder in the previous auctions they didn't pay, or there's been some sort of additional consignment here.
Sure.
Um, but obviously, I think we're looking at pretty strong prices overall, and
Some
very
might say
few mints.
overpriced.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if you scroll up a bit, the Claudius over here it's a very it's like it's a good VF to EF coin,
Yeah, the
with a
bust
very strong
style is,
portrait.
I'd say, honestly, not the best. I've seen better for him. The
Yeah,
reverse
yeah,
is very
definitely.
interesting, but even then, just like not the greatest style, not the greatest dies for this type, but 19,000 euro hammer.
Yeah, and it seems I thought when this was posted that the starting price was kind of optimistic. I didn't think it was gonna move that much out of like from the starting price, if at all. But I think 19,000 is a really strong price for this.
You can see even,
Um,
I mean, I'm not the biggest person who cares about mounting, but this says with traces of mounting on the coin. It tends to
oh
lower value
yeah,
somewhat. Like, I don't think it's a deal breaker, but then again, you look at this price of 19,000 euros and you wonder someone must have loved this coin to pay that much with mounting, or traces
yeah.
of that in the past.
Coins of this magnitude, like coins of this sort of like in this price range, mounting detracts value a ton.
Yeah,
So I think what Naumann has decided is like traces of mounting are the edge clippings that you see to the like what is it, like 5 o'clock on the obverse,
yeah.
and also like sort of scuffs seen on the like 2-3 o'clock area.
I mean, I would say even
So
that's not conclusive for me, but they seem to think
when
so.
it Yeah, when it comes to these, edges are very important. Collectors, they want to have a coin with a not only a supreme like strike and like lustrous feels, they also want no scuffs on the edges. They want a clear edge, um, which does like whenever you see a coin that is like just perfect, um, that tends to drive price up immensely.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, obviously, as you said, someone really wanted this coin. I think.
yeah. Overall, but yeah, I think that price is not worth it. But I guess someone must be happy.
Yeah,
It's
and
a great type.
it's equally curious for this Vespasian to the right here. It's obviously in great shape. This is like a clear EF coin to me. But similarly here, you have scuffs on the edges, implicating some sort of previous mounting of some sort.
Oh,
You
yeah, you can
also
see it more
have,
here. It's stronger, I'd
yeah,
say, than scuffs.
definitely, and I also think that it's worse because you have clear um, pitting on both the obverse and the reverse here, um, showing that the coin is not really in spectacular like FDC
Yeah.
sort of shape that would merit a 19,000 euro hammer, I think.
And what stood out more to me is usually those architectural types go for a lot more, so I could understand the Claudius type just kind of having that premium due to the interesting reverse. But Vespasian, I'm no Arius expert, but that seems like a normal type to me. Nothing too unusual. So I wonder then, once again, where did that huge premium come from?
Yeah, if you could click on it once more, did Naumann did they note any rarity on this? No,
Not that I see.
no. I'm if I'm not missing anything, I don't think this is a special type at all. I've seen these go for I mean in similar shape for 8 to 10K, which is like I think even then it's a strong price, but
Yeah.
19 is yeah, it's a lot.
Well, I would say on this one, the bust seems almost exceptional, the style, so I could see a justification, but not up to 19,000. I'd say 12 or
Yeah.
below, and even 12 is kind of pushing it in my opinion, but this has been a strong auction, I'd say, in a strong market at that.
Definitely, and as you say, the strike being as good as it is, and the dice being obviously in a very early die state, it does produce pretty exceptional strikes whenever the coin is like produced. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but the
But
gold
go
is
looking.
quite nice, just style-wise, looking at their selection. They've got some good coins here, but even this, look at that. That seems quite ridiculous. A Nero, I mean, Salus is what the most common type for him in an Arius for 7,000. I mean, what are we
Yeah,
looking at here? Is this Heritage Auctions? Am I missing a mid-stake slab
I
designation? I don't understand these
Ex-
prices. Makes no
exactly.
sense to
Now,
me.
this one stood out to me too, just because I thought the price was pretty obnoxious. I looked through previous sale records, and to my surprise, these have been selling for almost 2 years now, at around this hammer in
Really?
this condition.
Huh?
Yeah. So what a collector seems to be looking at, looking for whenever a coin of this time shows up is the beard dots on Nero's bust.
Okay.
Whenever those are very pronounced, the coin seems to hammer for a lot more. So I think that is also like a driving force when bidding on this.
Yeah, I would say this one has fine style too. It's better than most. One of the best I've seen actually, but still, it seems like a steep price to swallow.
Yeah, I would not pay this much for such a normal and like ordinary reverse type. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
it just doesn't
Or go ahead.
it just doesn't really do it for me. It's a very plain, very boring like sort of thing that you see most every day as a collector. So like just me personally, I would probably hone in on something more special,
Yeah, I'd say like if I
more
saw this
rare.
at like CNG, I would think maybe a $3,000-$4,000 hammer would be about average. But I mean, Naumann seems to be bringing in higher prices all the time. I don't know what they've done to get special clientele, but people seem to kind of designate their auctions as the only place they'll bid at, and then bring in these quite frankly ridiculous hammers.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of Bitter being very welcoming to new users, and then also obviously like COVID bringing in tons of new collectors into the hobby
And you wonder
with
too.
fat stacks.
I mean, this was right around Christmas. Is that playing a part in these hammers? Do people have more money? Christmas bonuses? It could be a factor.
Sure,
But
yeah.
I think with Naumann, we've seen his trends for a long time now. It's not a one-time exception.
No, no, I agree.
But yeah, quite interesting overall, just the gold types. Um, but even this, like, I mean, in my opinion, this is such a cool type from Claudius with the Praetorian camp. Um,
Yeah,
that at 6,000, and then comparing the 19,000 example up here, a different reverse for Claudius, but I just seem like that's such a big difference between these two types that's not justified in my opinion. I
yeah.
don't
I
see what
mean,
that one has that this one doesn't. Both are interesting architectural types that have a unique design. I mean, this one is a bit more worn, but still, I don't see a 13,000 euro premium between the two.
no, it's very hard to make the comparison because these collectors are often very driven by style and also surface quality. So this coin, for example, which is like a good find to a VF type
Yeah,
coin, it cannot reach these heights of like 17, 18, 19, just because of the most glaring issue, like being the surface and being the
Where I'd say if you look at the camp,
yeah,
the letters are almost just gone.
yeah, exactly. So it's usually the coins that look very nice, that have the opportunity to climb to crazy hammers. But then when you go into coins that are not really exceptional in the eye appeal department, those coins are usually like they're kept at a pretty low
Yeah.
hammer, regardless of how interesting they are historically. Because like this reverse type, to me at least, is way more interesting than the one architectural type seen
Yeah.
on the 19G coin.
That's what I'd say. Kind of coming from Byzantine, that's I'd say almost the inverse. Rarity is like it's king. Whatever's rare goes for the most, and if it's a good style, good condition, it adds some premium. But it's almost always just how rare is a coin um, that determines that ultimate hammer. So kind of seeing Roman being flipped is somewhat surprising, at least in the high end with the Aurei.
Yeah, I think 6,000 for this is it went for the starting price.
I think that's a
I
deal
don't.
in my opinion. I mean, it's a desirable type. I mean, Claudius is rare. I think 6,000 is honestly in this market especially a great deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad deal at all. I think that the person bidding on this probably noticed the fact that it's an interesting type and it's a desirable type, but the people the other bidders probably were more bidding for like what
Yeah.
appeals to their eye, you
Look
know?
at this Hadrian too. Just I mean, that's
Yeah,
magnificent. The quality, the
fantastic.
dyes. Yeah, I see what you mean. That just that kind of combination of style and grade, not grade, but style and preservation coming together, um, lead to these higher hammers.
It seems almost as if all of these Aurei were from some sort of either same collection or possibly some sort of horde or
Yeah, you
something.
wonder the scuffing. It's almost all in the same spots,
Yeah,
consistent patterns of
exactly.
wear. Uh, and I don't see a collection named. You would think with this many Aurei from one collection that would be kind of blasted out.
Yeah. There are some coins in here. I was looking at this Antoninus Pius. I actually had it watch listed.
Yeah,
Uh, Not really thinking I would bid, but you know,
you never know.
yeah, you never know. Anything can happen. But I think this is a really, really nice type. Not in the highest grade, obviously, but it shows Antoninus Pius in a very refined style, clearly centered, with discernible flow lines in the fields, which I find very appealing.
Yeah, I would say
Also,
almost just the wear
yeah.
adds to it. I would say like it's kind of a rare case where I see the wear and it almost makes him look even more elegant and kind of pushes all the attention onto him, onto his kind of his gaze, his bust. I would say that in this case, I'm a fan. I like the wear.
I'm not as sure. I like the wear. I would much rather obviously have
Well, same, but you know what I mean. I think
yeah.
a wear could be a lot worse. In this case, at least, it seems it
Yeah,
could be tastefully worn.
exactly. If it needs to be worn, this is definitely like the best way for it to be worn.
Especially like his eye
Uh,
area has almost perfect detail. The nose is not too worn. Just like it seems like the hair kind of took the brunt, and I'm okay with that.
yeah. And I think also the edges are very nice. They don't have any nicks, any scuffs to them. There are like some. Obviously, when you're buying coins for a lot of money, you do need to look at them more. I feel like you
Yeah,
need to look at every single small detail. Um, if you see on the reverse, there are some scratches which I do believe um, do they affect the price that I would be willing to pay.
same.
Um, but I think 4,000 in the end, it's a little bit high, but it's not at all extraordinary or something that is abnormal in this market. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I think you'd about make your money back, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the coin I was looking at too. Lot 883. Pretty interesting.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
light milliorenz from Valens. That's a kind of interesting rare silver type, and you see, I think in my opinion, most interestingly on the reverse, the top right, You had the Chi-Rho prominence. The emperor, he's got a spear, globe, stepping on a prisoner, and then that prominent Christian symbol above. This being, 30, 40 years after Constantine, having that on a coin like this, I think it's pretty interesting. And considering these were almost certainly presentation pieces or made for kind of prominent soldiers, dignitaries, they would kind of feature that Christian symbology so prominently.
Yeah,
Pretty
and
neat.
I've been seeing coins. I'm not sure if they were of Valence, but whenever the Cairo is featured this prominently, especially on a denomination of silver or gold, it does tend to drive the hammer up something like crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
You wonder, is it like a biblical collector effect where it's someone coming in wanting to kind of collect coins around the era of Constantine, around the conversion of the empire, or possibly even a specialized collector looking at the transition from paganism to Christianity and kind of collecting the coins as the empire's coin type switch between the two?
I honestly think it's a blend. The Cairo appeals to collectors that just want to collect something significant from a time period that saw so much change that it still affects us today. But also, a biblical person obviously wants to own a coin that so prominently features the triumph
Yeah.
of Christians, right?
Well, even look at the placement there. I think that's unusual, having the Cairo up top. Normally you see it in the fields on the left or right, kind of below the emperor's head. But in this case, it almost makes you think of the vision in this sign, you shall conquer, the emperor looking
Oh
up in the
yeah.
skies and seeing the Cairo. You wonder if that
Ah,
placement is actually intentional there and trying to kind of recall that or sort of symbolize the triumph of Christianity and the emperor using the Cairo to conquer his enemy.
that is really interesting actually, because you can faintly see the lines where it was engraved on the die, where the engraver was to separate the legend from the fields.
Yeah,
I wonder if this was perhaps like re-engraved at some point on the die.
yeah, that's a good point. Quite interesting now that you mention that.
Yeah, because it almost seems to cross
Yeah, you can kind of see
the
that.
place. Yeah, exactly. So it would be cool to find this die on a different coin where the Cairo wasn't present,
Yeah,
maybe.
try to track that down, see what happened.
Exactly.
But overall, just a magnificent piece, and especially in this era, to have a silver coin this large, I just think it's magnificent, beautiful, and a lovely kind of late Roman Empire style,
Yeah,
that
I
late
agree.
antique look.
Definitely.
And of course, you wonder, I would say, I mean, even for a Miliorenz, that's not too steep of a price, but once you kind of add that Cairo and the mystery behind it, I would say that's pretty justified.
And I mean, silver in this time period, super rare.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't ever see pieces like this with such a good centering. The die state is wonderful, and
nowhere.
obviously, as you said, the Cairo, yeah.
And even too with the silica or siliqua, however you pronounce it, they've got the smaller fractionals around a gram, 2 grams, and this being the larger piece, it kind of has that medallion-like aspect to it when you compare the two. The more common, lower, smaller amount versus these just kind of broad flanned, interesting large pieces.
Yeah, how heavy is this?
It's about 4 grams. It should be 4.5,
Oh yeah,
so about double a siliqua or silica.
right.
So yeah, quite interesting this piece. But yeah, overall, I think it was a good auction here. Lots of interesting pieces. In terms of lots, let me see here. 953. I thought this was a cool coin. Kind of unusual. It's a Bulgarian Empire piece from Theodore Svetoslav. Just interesting how they kind of adopted the Christian Byzantine symbology. On your obverse, you've got Christ seated on a throne with the ICXC, Jesus Christ, kind of the legends there. And on the reverse, you've got the Bulgarian emperor in Byzantine garb. He's wearing Byzantine clothes, has the cross-tip scepter, and has got a Byzantine crown as well. Just kind of an interesting piece between kind of a Byzantine and then a kind of Slavic crossover with Bulgaria.
Oh yeah, that's the Bulgarian in the legend there on the
Yeah, that's
reverse.
the what's it called? Cyrillic alphabet.
Acrylic, yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
quite the cool combo here. I think it kind of shows the fusion of cultures in this era and how they kind of weren't just distinct peoples, but everything was kind of blending together. People were borrowing different aspects from different countries and rulers.
That is interesting. I mean the Byzantine coins during this time period, they did serve as a global currency, didn't they? Like in
Yeah.
the place in Europe.
And you wonder too, Venetians, Venice had the same design with the Jesus obverse. It could be a Venetian borrowed obverse, but with the Byzantine dress on the reverse, there must be Byzantine influence. You would kind of assume both sides then came from the Byzantines.
Sure.
But overall, interesting. I think the price is a bit high. Um, that seems to be just a lot for the coin type. It's rare and in good state, so maybe it's justified. But overall, I would have expected to see below 200 euros.
Would Byzantine coins during this time period, like in silver, wouldn't they be cyphate normally? Or
No, this is a bit later. This is like the 1300s, so
oh,
gold
okay,
would have been
gotcha.
that, but not silver. It would have been flat. So this is actually struck at the weight of a basilicon, the Byzantine main silver piece. So that's pretty interesting. The gross was
Oh yeah,
interchangeable, so you could have used this with Byzantine coins. And besides the design, there would have been no difference.
interesting.
Yeah,
You,
overall, a
yeah,
cool piece.
yeah. Speaking as someone who doesn't really delve into medievals very much, I don't know anything about Bulgarian coins, but it is interesting to follow the crossover from what I would consider ancient coins over to more like traditionally medieval aspects.
Yeah, you can see the change happen earlier in different places. Like in England, you've kind of got those hammered pennies already, milled coins, about the 11th century. So you can kind of see just the difference take place sooner in some places, whereas kind of in the Balkans, it took a lot longer to kind of catch up, so to speak. They were still using those kind of medieval designs for a decent amount of time.
Yeah, because how long did Bulgarian coins like this survive? Like, did they copy Byzantines for longer, or did they stop at some point?
I think they continued on until about the 1400s. I'm not an expert on Bulgaria, but I want to say they were conquered by the Ottomans in the 1500s, and that would have
Ah,
stopped
right.
Bulgarian coinage. But yeah,
Because
overall, cool piece.
weren't the Byzantines and Bulgarians weren't they enemies, if I recall?
Yeah, it depends. Bulgaria was sometimes part of the empire, sometimes not. So they
Oh,
were either
gotcha.
subjugated or kind of fighting against.
Barbarians.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool coin. I just thought it was pretty interesting for what it was. Then lot 941 stood out as well. Uh, a big price for a unique phallus coin. So this is a Paleologan coin, kind of struck during the dying days of the empire in the island of Rhodes, and it's a unique coin, I think, or pretty closely unique. Almost published just in one site, Sommer. So the main source, Bendel, Simon Bendel, it's not in him or his books. It's not in Seer, not in Leontia. So it's pretty rare, and I guess the price reflects that. It's also small. For not even 1 gram of bronze, you're paying 450 euros. It's a lot.
Are we at all aware of what these monograms mean?
Yeah, so I think the monogram on the obverse is just for the ruling family, the
Oh, okay,
Palaiologans.
yeah,
Yeah, so it would have been their
yeah.
monogram, and the reverse, the B kind of came to represent the empire, the cross and B's. You can almost say it's
Oh,
like the
yeah,
Byzantine
right.
flag.
Sure, sure.
So
Yeah,
overall, just a
I've
cool
seen that.
piece. Any lots you want to look at? Still.
In not in Naumann, no.
All
I thought
right.
we could move on to more current sales that haven't
Yeah.
closed yet.
So we've got Triton from CNG. That's the main feature auction coming up soon. Lots of coins. But one tidbit before we get to that, I just thought we'd share a deal I saw. It's still going on. This is a coin with 21 hours left at a great price. It's from Justinian II, a Solidus, and this is
Oh,
the first
wow.
coin ever to feature Jesus in the history of the world. So you can see it's got a beautiful depiction of Christ Pantocrator on the obverse, and he's holding the Book of Gospels. In the reverse, you've got the Emperor holding a large cross, and the Anakexakakia. But overall, it's an interesting coin. The description says it's sea salvaged, so I'm assuming this has lowered the price some. I would imagine in this condition, it would hammer for $3,000 to $4,000 if it was not sea salvaged. So I think it's still at a great price. Below $1,000 is a great deal. So I thought I'd go ahead and just shot this out. Um,
Yeah,
21
I
hours
mean,
left. That price has not budged in weeks, so it seems to be pretty steady. There could be a good chance someone gets this awesome numismatically important coin for a great price.
Honestly, I might bid on that if the price remains that low.
I mean, I would think you kind of flip this to like a CNG feature sale, like 119, 120. You could make some money back even at this current price. That just seems ridiculously cheap. If I didn't have the money, or I'd bid. But someone else
Yeah,
can get this deal.
it's the first depiction of Christ on a coin. Like,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong. And I mean, these they hover like around 1.5 to 2K, like on any day.
Yeah, and I mean,
I'd
like, if
say.
you took away the sea salvage, this is in amazing shape. You don't see them come up this nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting too. It
I do.
started a war with the Arabs, the coin. They didn't like that Jesus was on there, so they wouldn't pay tribute to the Byzantines because they wouldn't use depictions of Jesus on a coin.
Oh,
So that
really?
started a
I
war
had no
between the
clue.
two.
Wow.
Yeah, so interesting that way as well.
It's also interesting. Like if you could somehow trace the provenance, having a coin where you know where it was found, like not that you know where it was sold previously, but you know where it was found.
Yeah,
Like that is pretty rare, and pretty significant in my mind at least. So if you could find out some more information, maybe who consigned it, or like maybe some information from CNG, that this would be like a really cool coin, in my eyes at least.
yeah, it makes you wonder who found it too. 'Cause a lot of times you'll find like sea salvages. They're found by divers who would just dive like off a boat in the middle of the ocean and look for like shiny objects in the water, which then become ancient coins. So it'd be interesting to see like where this came from. But yeah, just a cool coin. I thought a deal for someone out there maybe. But yeah, good price. Ending soon, so keep an eye out on it. But now to Triton. So this is pretty much I'd say the main auction right now, the biggest maybe. You've got the New York sale as well, but Triton is undoubtedly top three, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. If not the greatest sale at the New York International, as you say, like top three.
You kind of got like the largest firm in the U.S., I'd say at least, with all their best coins they've collected over a year, I'd say now. Just kind of assembling these wares, so it's pretty cool. They've got a lot of great coins that we can look at today. Any lots you want to see in particular?
Yeah, 565.
Here we go.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
Are you bidding
probably
on this one?
everyone. I wish I had the money. But no, I mean, people who collect coins, you're exposed to Indo-Greek stuff all the time, right? It's so common,
Yeah.
and especially of Menander. There are like over 5,000 known like coins of this specific ruler. What makes this coin so incredibly special is that it was struck in the Attic standard, the Attic weight standard,
Hmm.
meaning that it's almost 17 grams. Uh, this is something that only a few of the like Eastern coins did. There are some of the earlier Greco-Bactrian kingdom. There are also some single pieces here and there from the Indo-Greeks. But this is one of two known in the world,
That's
and it's
quite
up for
cool.
sale.
And look at that
uh,
provenance back to 1975. So you've got a detailed
yeah,
history at least, and you know that yeah, it's from good hands. You can say
exactly. This is not something that was like looted
yeah,
or found yesterday. This is something that's provenanced, and it's more of a museum piece than anything. The other known specimen of this type is in I think the French
yeah. Bibliothèque
coin collection.
Nationale.
Yeah, in their cabinet. Um, so I mean, a really really special coin, but also looking at the portrait here, you find a magnificent mandalic rendition of Menander
And look
with
at that
his like
size, 35 millimeters. That pretty much is a medal at
third.
that point.
Yeah, definitely. Um, no, but like his portrait with his receding hair is done very refined. You can see the diadem very clearly. Obviously, the die state here is pretty early. There
Yeah.
aren't a lot of um, uh, deficients like in the die. Everything's struck pretty center as well. If you look in the 8-9 o'clock area on the obverse, there is some doubling seen on the edge, but very minimal. Very minimal. Um, but yeah, I think the defining feature also that makes this so special is how the reverse deviates from his normal drams.
Okay.
Uh, Here we see Athena with her lightning bolt, very typical of coins of Menander from this time period. But the legend is very oddly put in place. So usually you would have legends going around in a circular fashion
Yeah.
around Athena on the reverse. But instead, obviously, the engraver chose to write out the legend in straight lines, which is not something that is done at all in the Greek series.
Do you think
Apart from,
do
yeah,
you think that raises concern? I mean, with only two examples known, unusual style. I'm not unusual style, but at least unusual reverse design and lettering. Could that possibly
and
be an indication of like a forgery of some sort?
no, I don't think so. I think this was obviously a very unique presentation piece when it was struck, perhaps given to his family or some important general or something. And I think the change in legend composition is just to reflect that more clearly. Um, so I mean the lettering, the style is done exactly as you would expect. The lettering looks fine. Um, no, so I think this is perfectly genuine. Not, there are no issues that I know of, at least.
That's a great piece.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just an interesting question
no,
there.
definitely, and I mean, Menander being one of the few Indo-Greek kings that we have outside references for. Most people don't really realize that we know basically nothing about these kings that ruled for almost 200 years, apart from the numismatic evidence that they left behind. Um, but Menander being such an important individual, he was mentioned in outside references, both referenced by Strabo, the Greek
Hmm.
historian, but also in a Buddhist text, which records his conversations with a Buddhist monk, Nagasena, where he's trying to find out the meaning of life and trying to explore those Buddhist religious questions, really.
That's quite cool. I guess we can go back to the lot viewing. So I'll take us to lot 931, which I thought was pretty cool. This is a Commodus medallion AE. Not what I collect, not the era I normally look at, but it just stood out to me being 40 millimeters, 51 grams, magnificent style. Just seemed like such a great piece. And no bid yet, which was kind of surprising to me.
Was this tooled at all, or is this no?
It says lightly smooth. Yeah, tooled. Okay, some details strengthened. All right, I guess that
Oh,
could be
okay,
why.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
even so, I
these
mean, the medallions aren't common. You've got to think that with such great style, smooth and tooled, I would still be interested if I had the money.
Yeah, I think perhaps it should do better, really, with that description. If the cataloger would have mentioned it being tooled, I think people would not really bid at all.
Okay.
But just saying detail strengthened, it's so vague. Perhaps that might push someone to make a bid when the live bidding starts.
Look at those
Um,
sides, the thickness of this. It's quite
yeah,
impressive. And
it's
you wonder
I'm
too. I mean, CNG does mention tooling. Perhaps it's not a serious case. So with the detail strengthened, maybe that just indicates that whatever tooling was done so at a minimum.
Yeah, I if I recall, I think they make the distinction between tooling and strength and details when it's just like a particular area that's been re-engraved,
Okay.
not the whole coin. So, for example, what could be re-engraved here could possibly be the cuirass on Commodus here,
Yeah.
or perhaps maybe um, the the details on the reverse figure. I can see that there are some lines on his clothing that doesn't really seem all that
Yeah,
natural, and his beard also might just be something that
that's a good
someone
point. Yeah,
thought, yeah, make him look more, yeah, I don't know,
yeah.
but
But overall, just a nice
uh,
piece that kind of surprised me. I mean, even with tooling, smoothing, at $6,000, you'd think that someone would bid.
I think it will be sold, even though no one's placed a pre-bid yet. You have to keep in mind also that this is a live auction done at the New York International with
Yeah,
floor bidding, so people will there'll be tons of people, and I think this will definitely be sold at least the opening price.
and the next coin surprised me for the opposite reason. I thought it just looked like a little bit ugly to me, not to be harsh on the coin, but it's at I think $26,000, perhaps 28,000. Yeah. I didn't like the reverse. I don't know. I thought that it just seemed kind of out of proportion, but obviously it's the cover coin for Triton this year, um, and seems to just be doing very well.
This surprised me actually. It's the cover coin on the website, but in the actual catalog, they use the big Swedish plate coin instead.
Okay.
So I don't really know why they. I don't think this is like Triton cover material
Yeah, I don't think
in
so.
my mind at least. So I don't really know why they chose this and not the Swedish plate as they did in the physical catalog.
Yeah, I thought the
Um,
reverse was interesting, but it just seemed to be kind of lacking artistically. Just a little too stylized, for my opinion, for my tastes there. Just,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
obviously, it's a rare type, and I do think it's in spectacular shape. Like the details on Commodus on the bust are absolutely great. So it's a Triton worthy coin, like
Definitely, yeah.
that, like 100%. But for the cover, I think we could probably do better.
Yeah, I think so. Next, we can get a 1005. Seemed like an interesting coin to me. A unique Constantine Solidus. The famous
Ooh.
Eyes to God type. I thought that the video would do it justice here. Just kind of beautiful preservation condition.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I guess the reverse type is unique on it, or perhaps the die combo. But either way, just a great coin with no bids yet.
The video definitely shows it in a better light than the pictures did.
Yeah,
You can see the luster in the video much clearly.
yeah, it's a kind of an unusual
Oh,
reverse, two
yeah.
wreaths, so kind of lackluster, I suppose. But you would think that Constantine is always popular. The Eyes to God type, same thing, a unique coin. I'm kind of surprised it has no bids yet.
What's the opening? Oh, 24. Yeah. I
Even
mean, considering
so, I mean,
yeah,
it's a plate coin. Yeah,
unique. Yeah. I thought
and
they.
once again, provenance back to at least the 1900s.
Sure. Yeah. Um, the reverse die. I thought I read that this was like a different, citing an imitative issue of Constance. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah. Odd, but very cool.
Yeah, either way, just a neat coin. A lot you want to look at, maybe? Is there one?
558.
558. Oh, cool.
So this is one more like coin in the same category as the Menander, I'd say. This is Apollodotus, and it's the like epitome of the Eastern style.
Yeah,
Uh, Extremely high relief, as you can
yeah,
see
that looks
there.
stunning.
Yeah. Like it's a huge medallic flan, great centering. There's no details missing here whatsoever, um, and obviously um, this is also from a ruler that we have no non-numismatic evidence for.
Hmm.
Um, this is a person that we have no documentation. There are no sources in the ancient times mentioning him, um, which is also, I think, what drives this kind of mysterious vibe.
Yeah.
of people who collect this sort of thing.
So what's with the monogram? I saw that was in the other coin too, kind of below that main design. It looks like a monogram,
Yeah,
maybe.
these are mint marks.
Oh, okay.
Bo Baracci, the person who's like he's seen as one of the more like authoritative people, like experts in this field. He's compiled all known types and try to attribute them to different mints. But
Okay.
obviously, it's very hard to do any sort of die study and try to like trace hordes from this particular place in the world.
Yeah.
These are usually found in Afghanistan, like in that sort of area, with a lot of turmoil, obviously. So it's very hard to conduct numismatic studies and trying to find out where things were struck and what particular monograms mean and so forth.
Well, cool. Yeah, it's a great type with the 34 millimeter flan. It is quite medallion-like.
Yeah.
One lot we can look at here is 1055. So this is cool. It's a kind of dynastic snapshot of a Byzantine royal family. So you've kind of got on the reverse three predecessors: Constantine V, Leo III, and Leo IV. And on the obverse, you've got Constantine VI and Irene. And so, interestingly, Irene was the first female empress of the whole Roman Empire to rule alone, and she actually blinded her own son to get that power. He was in her regency council, and as he grew of age, she didn't want to share power, so she blinded and murdered her own son to keep power. And so
Damn.
this is kind of before that happens, and it is supposed to depict like a happy family paying homage to their ancestors, but it's kind of ironic now with what happened historically that a few years before they were all together as a family, and afterwards she murdered and killed her own son.
Yeah, his eyes do look kind of impaled, don't you think?
Yeah, perhaps they've already been taken out. But
Yeah.
it's got, as a coin, almost no relief. It's kind of weakly struck, scratched. It's not the best example, but just it's a cool type overall. Um, but yeah, I just thought that was an interesting type. There's
Very
dynastic
interesting
issues.
with yeah, 5 busts on the coin in total.
Yeah, it
That's
was.
not something you see every day.
Yeah, it was pretty stylistic. It happened for a period, just kind of trying to build dynasties and giving homage to your ancestors. But yeah, it didn't last long as a coin design.
And what dynasty did they belong to?
I forget. Um, Maybe the Macedonians, or no, I think Macedonians came after them.
Oh,
Isaurians, maybe. I have to
yeah.
research, but yeah, just interesting that kind of ironic what happened afterwards that she would kill her own son, but then you know be depicted happily
Eh,
together a few years before.
But did they accept her as like a female leader? Did they?
It was
Was
kind of
that
her
like prevalent?
undoing. No, she lasted a few years, but once she killed her son, there was no heir anymore. So kind of everyone at court started to try to overthrow her to put their own candidate on the throne. So she kind of undid her
Yeah,
own power base by killing her son. It kind of got rid of her legitimacy.
sure.
Another cool coin is 1065. It's just a rare emperor who um, kind of took over the throne, got disgraced in battle, retired, became a monk, and survived for 30 years after being overthrown. But just he has rare coinage. You don't see it often. And it's a beautiful design with almost perfect
Wow.
strike and condition. I think the video will better show that here. Just how beautiful these coins are.
Incredible style for the
Yeah,
period.
yeah, it's quite nice. Yeah, and you wonder too. I mean, not many coins of his survive. Did he just not mint many, or was it his predecessors afterwards who kind of reminted old coins, got rid of them?
Yeah. How
But
long did he
overall,
rule?
I think 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, overall, just a cool coin in great condition. From a rare Byzantine emperor you don't see often.
Yeah. I've never seen him before. So.
Is there a lot you want to see next? Review.
Let's see. Yes, 817.
cool.
So this is a coin that was published in the CNR, the fixed price list that CNG publishes, I think,
Okay.
2 times a year.
Yeah.
And it's an exceptional coin in itself. But what makes it even more crazy, I think, is the very obvious black mark on the obverse here.
Yeah, I thought it was hold, but I
Um,
guess not. Looking at it more closely.
no, no, yeah, this is actually a coin that can be traced to the 1500s.
Hmm.
So it's like the one of the longest provenances I think that you can actually like find and trace back to.
Yeah.
Um, so they tried to sell this in the CNR for I think 90,000. But obviously it went unsold. So they've put it up in Triton here.
Hmm.
And this mark, this collector's mark, this is something that was actually done by collectors in the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th centuries. They would try to put their own influence on these coins as some sort of a collection. What do you call it? Collection sign.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, this was an eagle. But there are other coins from a similar time period, like 16th, 17th century. One that comes to mind is from Queen Christina of Sweden,
Okay.
who had a royal collection of ancient coins, and she actually put her own royal monogram as a countermark. She actually like punched a mark into the coin with her own monogram. And those coins today are now treasured for their provenance, and obviously, being from a royal collection, they're very stylistically significant
Yeah.
and they're very pretty to look at.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought this was a cool coin to highlight. It's something that you never see ever. The most that you could like accidentally buy and get a like great provenance for is from the early 1900s.
Yeah.
That's the only way to like accurately trace something, because before that, catalogs really didn't have pictures in them. Um, so whenever an auction was announced, they would describe the coins, but they would never take a picture of it really. You'd have to like
A viewing session,
a
maybe.
meeting. Yeah, exactly. Um, so it's interesting, and it's definitely like something that a hardcore collector would definitely want in his collection.
I wonder if any more collectors out there today are countermarking their coins, stamping them.
It would be a huge sacrilege.
Yeah, quite funny though. It looks like they even scooped out metal and inserted their own mark. Didn't even just stamp
Yeah,
it. Ugh, yeah.
I
Oh well.
I don't really know how they made the mark. It doesn't look like a normal counter mark. It looks like some sort of stamp that was made by like in maybe clay or something.
I couldn't tell. Is it below the surface? It's hard to see. Maybe the video will show it better if I pull that back up. See, it
You
looks like it's
wonder if
almost below the surface, but
yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is.
oh,
Maybe it'll fall out like if you handle the coin too roughly. Like
that's funny. But yeah, what a coin.
yeah, and as the CNG description notes, this collector who was like some sort of aristocrat, he only marked 1,500 out of 15,000 coins with the eagle countermark. So obviously this was a treasured coin in his collection and something and a coin that he chose to mark especially.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, the provenance here has a longer write up than most coin types. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool to see. So we can go now to lot 1073. This is pretty cool. It's a coin tied to a supernatural event. Not supernatural in the sense of like aliens, but just outer space activity of a supernova.
Oh,
So in
really?
yeah,
Wow.
so in 1054 there was a supernova, and these very unusual coins appeared in the reign of Constantine the Ninth Monomachos, and scholars have tried to kind of place these stars or suns on the coin, and then what they've seen is in the actual contemporary sources by like Chinese, Japanese, Arab astronomers, they found that a supernova was recorded in 1054. So they've kind of gone back and traced that this coin must have been issued during that period, and that it was maybe taken as a positive omen for the ruler to then put that on his coins.
It's interesting because I know we actually know this supernova. We've actually found its remnant. So if you Google SN 1054 right now, you'll see the remnant of this supernova that is being referenced on the coin. That's so
That's pretty
interesting.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, wow. I never even knew this coin existed. I'm like awestruck
yeah,
as
it's
we're
quite a
sitting
cool
here.
type. You don't see that often that you can actually like trace a like specific just phenomenon in the natural environment then back to a coin. There's a few
So this
actually
is
in Byzantine history. I think later Alexius the First has a similar type from Thessaloniki. He's got another kind of like astrological phenomenon that he puts on a coin.
So like this coin goes beyond just like the historical aspect of being ancient. It crosses over to like astronomy, to areas of humanity that I think like are so significant at such an early stage. I mean, documentary evidence for a supernova in in a millennia ago,
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a cool type too.
Yeah.
If you see he's holding a sword, that's not at all common on Byzantine coins. The emperor depicted as warlike, so you've not only like got the supernova, you've also got sort of military elements.
I'm still so shocked about the supernova aspect that I'm not even considering the other.
And even for
Uh,
that, that seems pretty cheap to me considering everything behind it at 1800. I mean, obviously I can't buy that, but I just price wise, you could expect 10 times that oftentimes for a coin with historical ties like this.
I mean, I'd buy that for 1800 any day.
Yeah,
Are these common? They don't even mention any rarity in the description.
I'd say you'd probably see them about every like feature auction season. You'll see one or two come up. Like
Damn,
once a year, January, you might find one.
I might have to pick one up.
They're
That's
pretty
so
cool.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's one of my favorites in this auction that I've seen. So let me see here. So 1080 is another cool one. This is one where I'm not even sure of the authenticity, but it's a cool piece. It's a silver trachea of John III, Ducas Vatatzes, and it's just of an unusual style, and it's got odd surfaces. This design has not been known in silver until this coin, so it's thought to be unique, if real. But I just thought the style seemed off. It's got a weak strike, and then those black surfaces seem unusual. Uh, in my opinion, I think there's not enough to point this coin out as fake, but there's not enough to point it out as genuine either. I couldn't decide if you were telling me to choose if it's real or not. It just seems like it's kind of out there.
And it's completely unpublished. This has not been seen
Yeah,
before.
it hasn't, no.
Yeah.
So it's known in gold, but even then the style is very different. So just kind of an unusual piece that most likely, if it was struck, it was not struck from gold dies. It would have had to have been like completely new silver dies made, and then like that with unusual style, unusual surfaces. It just seems kind of odd.
In the Byzantine like coins of this time, do you see a lot of crossover like within types
Yeah,
from
you do.
silver to gold?
There's a lot.
Okay, yeah.
So in that
So
sense, like
that's not a red flag.
no, it's not.
No.
It's kind of got a actually a very heavy weight though. That's kind of unusual. 3.95 grams. Most are around 2.5 or less. So kind of seeing that as unusual as well. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's like a test strike for the type. You can see here, so DOC 1A, Dumbarton Oaks 1A, that's a gold type. 2072, I'm pretty sure, is a gold type as well. But just kind of seeing this in silver is unusual, and that combined with the odd surfaces and kind of weird style raises the red flag.
Obviously, there are no sales records of this type because it's
No.
a unique. But what's a price that you would put it at?
I mean, if authentic, I wouldn't be surprised to see like 2-3 grand as a hammer. But
Damn.
I just
Wow.
wonder, like, with the problems it has, I don't know if it'll sell well. Just seems kind of
Yeah.
troublesome.
Yeah. It does seem to have that sort of, I mean, classic archetypal, black smudge in the devices
Yeah.
that you do tend to see on some fakes out there. But
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, I can't tell,
And I think
can't give you a.
kind of you can just see like how fuzzy it is. You don't see that with Byzantine silver. It's almost always just completely sharp in AR. Wear is not that common. It might be weakly struck, but not like this at least. Um, like it's usually either completely flat or completely sharp, but kind of like raised details that are mushy. That just doesn't bode well for me. You can see here too if you look at the cross, this kind of center section here, where above you kind of got like the top of the patriarchal cross and the stem, it just kind of gets all fuzzy and mushy. It kind of makes you
Yeah.
wonder, was this like a cast of some sort where something got in the mold that was used to restrike? I don't like it, but I don't have enough to prove it's fake, so I guess it'll remain like
I
here in
mean,
the auction.
if this could be tied to a die connected to one of the Electrum examples, I think a good case could be made that this was just struck by really really worn dies,
Yeah, but that would just
especially.
yeah, it just seems unusual. Even then, though, it could be a cast copy of the gold type, then struck in silver. So like it would make sense if that were the case, but I wouldn't completely absolve the coin. It just got like a weird gunmetal almost coloring to the flan. Byzantine silver is almost completely pure in this period, so you would kind of imagine a shiny silver and not this dark gray color.
Sure.
But overall, just an unusual coin. Um, I wouldn't recommend bidding on it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you're definitely taking a gamble when you're bidding on something like this.
Although, of course,
But
if you can prove it's fake, CNG will of course refund your money. I would not
yeah,
feel comfortable bidding this much money on it, even if I had that kind of money to throw around.
sure.
But yeah, overall, pretty cool. I mean, like, cool if it's real. If not, oh well. And then I think 1079 was one more Byzantine example. So this was interesting. It's at an opening of $1,200, which is quite steep for what it is. It's a John Comenius Ducas trachea, large module, so it's pretty rare. It's a rarer variant being a larger size, and it's got fine style. It's provenance to Simon Bendel, so he's one of the number one collectors in this era. But it's sold in 2020 for a hammer of 1,200, and CNG has come a year later now, or 2 years later, and started the opening at what it hammered at, which seems kind of odd to me. It's a lot of money for what this coin is, I think, and I'd be surprised if it sells.
So, could you describe a little more about like what makes this coin stand out apart from like the normal trackie?
Yeah, so he's a rare ruler. You've kind of got, after 1204, like the Byzantine Empire splits, you've got Nicaea as a rival empire, and you've got then Thessalonica. And so Nicaea is the one that actually comes back, takes Constantinople, and becomes a restored empire. So when you see Byzantium after 1204, it's the Nicaean Empire that's kind of come back and reestablished itself. Thessalonica was a rival state that lost pretty much. And so after John Comenius Ducas, you don't have any more emperors of Thessalonica. It's just the empire of Byzantium in Nicaea that's taken over this area. So he's kind of the last ruler of this area. And he actually is one of the most diverse minters of all Byzantine emperors. He minted, I think, 54 types or so in about 4 years,
Wow.
which is almost unheard of, and many kind of crazy new designs that you don't see before or after. And this is one on a trachea, a giant patriarchal cross with ICXC for Jesus Christ and Nika, so Christ will conquer. And then the obverse is, or the reverse, excuse me, is the Emperor Saint Demetrius, and they're holding a model city in between. So it's quite cool,
Oh,
unusual style. So this obverse you won't find anywhere else. This reverse is pretty rare across all emperors. So it's just an unusual coin, unusual types, great provenance, unpublished, and trachees come in modules, so you'll have large and small examples. And for John, they're almost completely minted in small, so you almost never see a large module trachea. You can kind of imagine maybe like Sesterdius and Ass, where the Ass is a smaller coin and Sesterdius is a larger, kind of more medallion-like coin. That's almost what the small and large module are in Byzantine. So to see a large
oh
module kind
wow.
of makes it just stand out in size, weight, and the style will be better. Actually, if we come over to Naumann real quick, They had a similar example sell for about, I think, $100, $200 in this auction from him. And you can see the difference. This coin right here, so this sold for 325 euros. This is the small module. So you can tell here the difference in style, that this has got a lot more kind of effort going into it.
Yeah, definitely. Are there weight differences between the modules?
Yeah, so I think small is about a gram. Yes, this is 1.13 grams, and this should be about 2 almost. 1.18.
Right.
So you've got about like a little bit over half a gram difference in weight, but trachees are often very thin, so that kind of equates to a much larger flan.
That is actually really interesting. I had never heard about different modules of trachees. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, you kind of see it mostly in Thessalonica where they've got different modules, but yeah, it's kind of a conundrum. No one knows why some were larger, some were smaller. An idea or theory is that the Bulgarians came in and were minting like fake trachees of a smaller size, so the actual government had to stop minting large module ones to kind of keep up with that, with the counterfeits coming in. And if they were minting large modules, people would just like clip them down to the smaller size and use the clip down ones. So they just kind of gave up minting large module trachees after a while.
Yeah, and I mean, like I would guess that the larger module also gives the engraver more room to maneuver.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, this one is way better than the
Yeah.
Naumann coin.
But yeah, just a cool coin, I thought, with an ambitious opening
Yeah.
price. We'll see if it sells at 1,200. Any other coins you want to look at here?
I didn't
Triton?
actually have any more coins in Triton. There are for sure more coins to note. I didn't pick any out though, but we could scroll
Yeah.
and try to find something interesting. You could probably sort from high to low.
That's a good idea, yeah. Find the best ones.
Exactly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know why they've not removed those. It seems yeah.
Yeah, I saw, I don't know if you saw the episode, I think 3 of Aaron Burke's podcast, but he mentioned looking at this and gave a pretty cool talk about it. Neat coin. So I guess,
What
yeah.
year is this?
Year 5. So I think he was
Oh,
saying that
okay.
either year 4 or year 5 is the rarest, but obviously year 5 being the last kind of adds a premium in value.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave a pretty cool discussion about the provenance of the types. I'd recommend heading over to his episode to kind of learn more about it. But it's a cool coin. And I guess in Triton it must be the most expensive one, or kind of at that threshold.
It's interesting to see that not a lot of these have had bids. I recall
Yeah,
last year
it was crazy.
seeing, yeah, way more bids.
I
But
think
I
like
guess also this is a floor auction, and I don't think they had one of those last time because of COVID. So maybe
could
people
be.
are waiting like to actually bid at the show.
And you've got to think in these cases it's almost like exclusively the uber rich bidding. Like I mean, it's a coin worth this much money. They're going to have an agent go in person most likely and bid on their behalf.
Sure, sure.
Is this what
We
you were
could
talking
actually,
about? The
yeah,
plate money.
exactly. This is the cover of the physical copy of CNG. I just got
Okay.
that in the mail last week, and it's a 14 kilo. That's like
Oh my
30
gosh, yeah.
pounds. 30 pounds of a coin. So it's a huge piece of numismatic collector. Like it's just insane.
I wonder what would.
And
I mean, why even make it a coin at this point and not just metal bars? Seems kind of
now
interesting to have a sheet this large and then just kind of stamp those marks on there.
I am Swedish, but I'm not very knowledgeable of
Yeah,
Swedish numismatics. What I do know, however, is that these were not very valuable. You could not do a lot with like carrying this around.
makes sense. Yeah,
Um, but for some reason, I don't really know why they chose to strike these enormous uh, types of coins. There are a lot of like different weights when it comes to plate money. I've seen 2 kilos, 4 kilos, 6 kilos, but obviously this being exceptional, this is yeah 14 kilos, which is
yeah,
huge.
quite crazy.
Um, So yeah, it's also interesting to me that they chose this as the cover for the auction. It's not a very pretty coin. Obviously, it's a very important piece of numismatic. Um, uh, uh, it's a very important numismatic piece, but
Yeah,
it's not a very eye appealing. Like if you're trying to draw people to your auction, that might not
I'd say
be.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is pretty cool too. The Titus Labianus.
Yes.
I remember seeing there was an example of about I think it was like 1/3 of a coin of these, which sold. I think it was about $15,000 recently, so it's kind of crazy to see a full example now come to market.
Yeah, I actually read the study that Hirsch made of these. That's actually cited in the description here. It's interesting that these that we actually know every die in the series, and we can very accurately track when like forgery dice come up. So it's a very safe sort of niche in the Republican series. That like you can know very easily if your coin is a good is authentic or not.
Oh, is this not Titus? This is Quintus.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's my bad. I guess Titus fought with Caesar in the Gallic Wars, right? But then he went
Yeah,
over
so
to Pompey
Titus
or Pompey
exactly.
for the
Yeah.
Civil War.
So Quintus, his son, he fled after his father died in at the fields of Munda in 46. He fled to Parthia, which
Oh wow.
obviously the mortal enemy of Rome. He came back in the early 40s to the Roman province of Syria at the head of a Parthian army.
Yeah.
So he briefly conquered the province of Syria, threatening Mark Antony's position as the hegemon of the
Hmm.
Roman East. But he was eventually beaten back by a Roman general called Bassus, who achieved a huge victory, were very unexpected against both Labienus and the son of the Parthian king, who subsequently died in the campaign.
And so you mentioned the Persian connection. Is this horse on the reverse? It's got a quiver. It's quite unusual for Roman coins, right? To see that on there. Could that be like a Persian quiver,
Yeah,
possibly?
yeah. I've never thought of that actually, but yeah, sure.
I'm not familiar with like
The
Republican types, but I haven't seen like that kind of horse and quiver before. So it kind of makes me wonder if he's having Persian troops. It could be an homage to them.
Definitely. Like if you recall, like Karhai, for example, the defeat of
Yeah.
Crassus, he was defeated by a horse army with like horse bowmen. So obviously the Parthian army was largely on horseback and with a lot of archers.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. That could be like some sort of homage to the troops he was leading.
It's in great shape too. It looks like maybe crystallized, but almost nowhere. You see his beard
Yeah,
here. There's lots of details still.
yeah, there is a flank crack that is kind of like
Yeah.
worrisome, I'd say. But the coin overall is wow. The lettering is really sharp. The bust is all there. This is a star in any collection.
And kind of sad,
Uh,
no video here. I'm not sure why. To click
oh
on and view
yeah,
in hand.
it's graded by NGC, so
That's probably why.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing that yeah they couldn't get a good video on
Another reason to hate slabs, but oh well.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty cool too. The Noah's Ark type. Remember there was
Oh,
one
I
at
love these. Yeah.
is it Leu Loy, however you pronounce it, that sold for I think almost $250,000. I guess this is not as nice, but still a pretty cool type here.
Amazing type, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird seeing a Christian emperor, like a like Christian emperor, referencing a biblical event,
Yeah.
which is kind of odd.
Yeah, I would
But
guess it's more like the provincial aspect, or maybe they had more autonomy in what they
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
mint. But yeah,
definitely.
pretty interesting type. Ooh, look at that. Decadrachm. Or Drachma.
In the style, yeah, Kaimon, very distinct style. these are absolutely my favorites when it comes to the Decadrams. I prefer Caimon to Uenetos.
And that Provenance too, the French National Museum. If
Oh
you see
yeah,
that, you know it must be an amazing coin.
definitely. It's quite interesting with these, especially when they have museum provenances. I recall reading that a bunch of these were stolen from the Berlin Museum, the Berlin collection, in 1945,
Okay.
right after the war by the Red Army. Um, One of those coins sold in 2020 at Loy, actually, and the museum made a big fuss about it. They wanted it back, but to my knowledge, it was never returned.
Huh.
So a lot of these are embroiled in controversy.
That's pretty wild. That yeah, I didn't even think about that. That you could have like a negative provenance like that attached. It looks like this one
Yeah,
has a die break maybe on the reverse here. Kind of small, but
yeah.
yeah, a shame.
But obviously, these being very collectible coins, they've been collected forever, basically.
Yeah,
So they're bound to have like you can't like really really different provenances,
yeah,
a
but they're
real
cool
story to
type.
them. And here we see the Uenetos style.
We can compare which
Oh
one's
no!
better.
Oh really? It's they claim it to be in the style of Kaimon. Maybe I'm not as keen on these as I thought.
It's hard to
Looks more
say. I
like
think
Uenetos to me.
I don't know the difference to be honest. I'm a Byzantine collector. It's hard to say which one do you like better style wise. I think this one is in better condition on the reverse. Um,
I like the this one like more. I think the features on the reverse are much more refined.
the hair seems more
And
natural in a sense. It just seems free flowing almost. This seems more
yeah.
like a mess hair wise. Just the detail.
Uh, and just speaking like value wise, this one isn't signed by the engraver. The other one is.
Yeah,
So that's a huge thing for collectors of these.
yeah, it makes sense. You'd want that on there. Cool. Some more, I guess, Bactrian coins. Some tetradrachms. That's cool.
Oh yeah,
Cushion,
these are really
double
cool.
dinar.
Yeah, very
So wow, look at
unique
that.
design.
15, 16 grams almost of gold.
It
Yeah,
shows the emperor through a window, which is interesting.
yeah, it's pretty cool, and it looks like he's almost like kind of breaking that fourth wall with his hand over the rim, the edge of there. I like that. It's a cool type.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird the depiction here of the person almost like folded over the cow there. You see what I mean? They just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
look like they instead of going behind the cow, they kind of bulge over it. Um, Bit unusual.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. But he's sitting on the bull though.
Uh,
He's not behind it. You can see his private parts
yeah,
there.
just
Not as refined.
maybe not the best die cutters here.
Yeah.
Bit hard to follow, but yeah, maybe I shouldn't zoom in there. Yeah, so here's that stamped coin. Here's Uenetos.
There we go. So, like, if you compare it with the coin that we were looking at before, so this is an unsigned die, but that's supposedly by Kaiman, but I think these are very similar.
Yeah, they are compared to
But
this.
I guess,
Very different
yeah,
style, I'd say. You'd group these two together first, and then this one.
but I guess like it's much thicker on Kaiman's depictions compared to Ueneto's.
Hmm.
So I guess that's some sort of yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say.
Is
Overall,
the
yeah, nice
Ueneto is that
coins.
signed?
Unsigned.
Unsigned, I see. Yeah, I mean,
I think I like this one best
remarkable.
still.
Yeah, me too.
Hard to beat.
Impeccable, definitely.
Ooh, a double Daric. These are neat.
Yeah, amazing.
Too bad about the slab, no in-hand video, but oh well.
It's interesting that you can scroll through this auction like in like at an infinite in an infinite amount of time, and you'll always say, "Ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, I
Yeah.
want to see that more closely."
This
Um,
one, this one's cool too. It looks like it has the kind of like female male depiction of the emperor in interface, maybe, but
yeah,
maybe it's not a flattering bust. You can see Trajan though, the nose, the mouth.
yeah, definitely. Looks like Trajan put on a wig.
But yeah, it's a cool auction. You can go here, like you were saying, forever. Look at all the different types. So I think we're probably hitting on like 2 hours now for the
Yeah,
podcast. Probably about time to call it quits. Well, I hope everyone out there enjoyed it. Taking a look at all these coins, so many cool auctions to keep an eye on, and maybe not target wise for Triton, but we can still watch
watch and envy.
and cry. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, and then until next episode.
See ya.